Many people remember this show called Pingu, right? If you don't know, it's about a clay painting penguin named Pingu who goes on wacky adventures. I like this series so much, but this happened. I was about to go home after eating at a Japanese restaurant. When I was going home, I found a disc on the street. I picked it up and found out that it was blank. Curious, I decided to take it home with me and watch it. When I went home, I went straight to my room and put the blank disc in my DVD player. I ate my EBT tempura, chicken, katsu, and sushi as I watched. The disc opened up with a black screen with only the option being play. I pressed the play button and the disc started with static, and then it cuts to what seemed to be a title card. It was one of those Japanese title cards of Pingu, but it showed Japanese text with a picture of Pingu, lying on the ground with a pool of his own blood, surrounding what seemed to be his body. When I first saw that, I scoffed, thinking it was just a practical joke. The intro appeared, but Pingu was nowhere to be found. I knew this was a little suspicious for me, but I continued to watch. The episode started with the tombstone with flowers and snow covering it. That's why I knew something was up. Upon closer look at the tombstone, I saw a picture of Pingu on it. Pingu's dead? How did this happen? I asked with a mouthful of sushi. Then it cuts to a flashback showing what happened. The flashback started with Pingu driving his dad's car, just like how he did in the episode. Pingu gets carried away. It was normal until the scene where they go to the candy shop, which the candy shop owner got angry at Pingu for destroying the store. Pingu began to cry, like in his original cry. The candy store owner tried to comfort Pingu, but Pingu slapped his hand away from his shoulder. Pingu then runs away, and then the screen turned black. The screen then returned to Pingu walking with his eyes still covered by his hands. Strange and ominous music started playing as Pingu walked. As the screen cut to black once again, and then it cuts to a shot of Pingu's igloo home, the image was still on the screen for about 5 minutes, and then it showed Pingu on his bed. He was crying, not like his usual crying, but crying that sounded realistic. Pingu was still crying on his bed, and his crying devoted around to a human cry, to a cry that sounded like a woman's. Pingu then opened his teary eyes, and they were red. Pingu got out of his bed, walked to his parents' room, and got out a blue box from under the bed. Pingu opened the box to show a picture of Pingu and Pinga on it and other stuff, and a gun. I spat out my food in my mouth. I said, "What?" Pingu grabbed the gun from the box and sat on the living room floor. He was sobbing quietly, and the screen cuts to black. All we see here was Pingu saying goodbye. I was shocked to hear Pingu said something other than his usual newt newt. Pingu then basically pulls the trigger and a gunshot heard. Although the screen was black, we couldn't see it as we heard blood begin to spew out. Pingu then was dropped dead on the floor and blood began to surround him, just like how I saw in the title card. Pingu's mom, dad, and Pinga and this candy store owner bust through the door. They found Pingu dead on the floor. Everyone was shocked, and Pingu's mother then falls to her knees, picks up her dead son's body, and started crying softly. Everyone started crying, and sad music began playing in the background. The screen slowly fades to black, and then it cuts to a church shaped like an igloo. This time, and then it cuts to the interior of the church. Every character from the show was there, wearing black. They were all crying. Pingu's parents and Pinga were crying as they approached the coffin, with Pingu in it. Pingu's eyes were closed, and he was just laying there. Pingu's father started to speak his normal penguin language, and his mother was up next to say her goodbyes. She started crying and reaching for Pingu's dead body in the coffin, but the guards just started to restrain her. I was crying hysterically at this point, and then it cuts to the outside of the church, where it was raining, and this was strange because the Antarctica didn't even have rain. There were 4 penguins carrying Pingu's coffin, and they carried over to a tombstone that looks exactly like the one at the beginning. They started digging the dirt out of the tombstone and placed the closed coffin into the hole. Pingu's parents began to cry as this happened. I was practically crying a puddle of tears right now on the screen. I was Pingu's parents pulling some of Pingu's belongings, and they leave. The screen then zooms out of the entire city where Pingu lived. The screen then cuts to black and then shows a picture of Pingu from the old intro. There were black words in the title, and they said, "In lovely memory of," on top of Pingu's igloo logo. The music was "See you again." that first happened in the Fast and Furious 4 as a tribute to Paul Walker. The screen then cuts to black, and then the music ends, and that was that. I buried the disc in my attic and forgot all about it. I was crying hysterically as I fell after that horrible experience. The next day, I went to the attic again, but found no disc. But it was nowhere to be found. I then searched frantically around the house, but no luck. Is this disc cursed or what? I don't even know where this disc had vanished to. But I warn you, don't be looking for this disc, please. If you have anything information about this disc, please let me know. And that, my little pretties, was Pingu Gets Carried Away alternative ending. I guess you could say a Pingu Lost Episode creepypasta, written by Affan Jamsari. Affan Jamsari, thank you so much for the story. Thank you so much for writing this one. I liked narrating it. So my final thoughts on this story, I'm going to be completely honest. I did not like it. And why I did not like it, well, I'm going to sit here and say this right now, is that the first thing I could definitely say was it's cliched. That's one thing I definitely noticed, is that the entire story was completely cliched. Like this story that has hyper-realistic blood, hyper-realistic gore, hyper-realistic crying, and the disc part, like, oh, why? Why can't I not find something, decent when it comes to a good creepypasta? Like, the grammar was okay. There was no problem with the grammar. But I did notice some lowercase i's. They need to be capitalized. Certain names of certain characters. Like, there was a few times where Pingu's name, the P was not capitalized. And that's one thing I did notice, is that it was not capitalized. So I definitely saw that. It was not capitalized whatsoever at all. And the reason why for that is, well, I think maybe there was some grammatical errors in the story too. That's another thing. This story was not good. Might be just me, but I didn't really, like this story because it's a ripoff of one popular SpongeBob episode that I'm not going to say the name of it because, well, for reasons, but I definitely have to say that YouTube is kind of sensitive about that stuff, so not going to mention it, but if you guys want to mention it in the comments, that's fine, because you might have noticed that for halfway through. And here's the thing. Why would Pingu sit there and, end his life like this? Like, why would he do that? It was like absolutely no, it doesn't really work with this story. That's the main issue. It didn't work. That's exactly what this one is that this story did not work with the ending. Like, the ending of it just didn't work. That's the main issue, I definitely have to say. But I will say this, and I'm gonna say this right now, is that this story, to be honest, it was good, but the story was not great, but the grammar was okay. The sentence structure was pretty good, I'm gonna definitely say, although there were some places that could have had proper periods or where they should be, commas where they should be, or they're completely all over the place, and the paragraph structuring is good. Those are the only things I can definitely say that were good. The rest of the story was just garbage. That's just me, though. At the ending, the part where it says in memory of, and then it has certain music, mentioning Fast and Furious as a tribute to Paul Walker. Like, why would you even add that? Like, why would you even add that? That didn't really, that doesn't really make sense. That's the main issue. It doesn't really make sense to sit there and do that. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you even add that in the story? It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. That's to be completely honest. I'm sorry, but I think maybe this might be just maybe me, but the story itself was just, I don't know. This story just didn't really, work a lot, and that's the main issue, is that the story itself is just cliched. It's a ripoff of I guess you could kind of say it's a ripoff. I don't really know, but it kind of rips off another story. And here's something I'm gonna say. never rip off another story because it doesn't work. If you sit there and rip off another story, it just doesn't work. I'm not trying to sound harsh on the offer or anything because I kind of know I am, but at the same time, the story just wasn't good. Now, maybe I might be not being, maybe that's me because I'm not being fair. I don't know, but the story just needs to be, well, here's the thing. The story needs to be rewritten. Like, here's my advice to the author if they want to make it better is to, rewrite the entire thing. That's one thing I would definitely say is rewrite the entire thing. That's my advice to them is to rewrite the entire thing. Like, that's how I would if I were to do that, but the story just the story just wasn't really good. And that's the main issue. It just wasn't really good. But I definitely have to say the story, like, the grammar was okay and it was decent. Same with the sentence structuring and the grammar and the paragraph structuring, but the story itself just didn't really work well. That's the main issue. It didn't work well. That's probably one of the main issues I have to say. But I'm just going to sit here and say this right now. To the author, please try and revise this story and fix this story as best as you can. That's all I have to say. And remove the unnecessary cliches like the hyper-realistic blood and all that, because that wasn't really necessary. But my advice to the author is to don't do that. Like, don't sit there and add unnecessary cliches. Don't add hyper-realistic because, I'm getting sick and tired of seeing that in creepypastas nowadays. I'm not trying to bash anybody here. This is just my own opinion on the story. Okay, I guess maybe that's just all I have to say about the story, but yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna sit here and say this right now that this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. And my final rating of the story, I'm gonna give this one a 2 out of 10. Only a 2 out of 10 because the grammar was decent, the paragraph structuring was okay, and was good, and the sentence structuring was good. That's all I have to say. The rest of the story was just cliched. It wasn't good. But yeah, I guess you probably already know why it was not good. You should hear the whole narration and the review. So, anyways, what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. And don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so then you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.